Hello, everyone. So this presentation is about the introduction of the data science and artificial intelligence and where it has been used and how it can be used with a bit of applications in architecture restoration, and also architecture restoration linked education activities as part of our project funded by Erasmus Plus program. So the project is to develop a kind of metaverse environment to augment architectural restoration education using AR, VR tools with an augmentation of such tools using data-driven artificial intelligence models and also data science. So the reason why I said the power of data with artificial intelligence, if you look at the history, if you go back a decade or 2 decades, with the development of computational tools and also with the tools that has been developed to collect data through different means, we have started generating massive amount of data. We have started collecting this data, and we are also harnessing the data to be able to have a decision-making tool and tools. And also we are using these data for training artificial intelligence models. If you look at all these developments, you will be able to see that how data has transformed the businesses, the education, the medicine, everything that we have been doing in our life. And now the data has also started empowering certain organizations, people, to be able to gain business advantage. So I've been working in that area for quite a long time. So I generate data by myself. I'm sure you have been generating data as well. And I'm trying to collect the data for different purposes, for my research, for other projects. And also I've been analyzing, mining the data using a number of different tools, statistical tools, machine learning tools, artificial intelligence tools. And also, actually, we are also investing in that area through different means. I would like to start with our recent exposure to data over the last maybe 3 years. So everyone sitting in front of the TV, or everyone is looking at the news, everyone was watching other news environments. We always saw data linked to recent pandemic, COVID-19. So we were briefed about how many people got infected, dead, vaccinated in and around the world. This also included information about our specific countries where we lived in. So you can see that this data was a bit scary for certain people. And also we were locked down because of the data being provided by certain officials. So therefore, we saw why data was quite important to take some measurements in line with government policies, terms and conditions. But it was not only this. The data was also important to understand what was happening in the world, how this disease transmitted to the other people, and also we started looking into molecular aspect of this infectious disease. It wasn't seen before. So therefore, we need to understand in what way it was transmitted into humans. And we had to understand what was the molecular mechanism or DNA architecture of this disease to be able to help us find a vaccine, a cure, and so on. Right at the beginning, because of the lack of data, the government officials did not act upon quickly to be able to restrict the movement of humans. So therefore, if you got this disease and you traveled and you passed this on to other humans. So that's why it came up on the news saying that data can save lives. If you have one, of course, but if you don't have enough data, even if you don't have any data, it costs lives. This is what we have already seen. And also it was reported in the news. So because of the lack of data available for coronavirus, right at the beginning cost a lot of lives. And then because we started developing, collecting more data linked to this disease, then AI stepped in, and then they used AI models to be able to understand what's happening there. Not only the molecular mechanism of the disease, but also the way it was transmitted, where it was transmitted, and then we picked up someone who may have got the disease, and we'll ask these people to stay home until they get better. Otherwise, if we didn't pick up these people, and if they were moving around in the public, then they got in a position of transmitting disease to more people. I think it helps in several different ways. One is, yes, molecular aspect of the disease and how we may be able to develop vaccine. The second one is behavior of human beings under this condition. And we got who may have got the disease in the public domain through different ways of collecting data. And we managed to minimize the transmission of the disease from one to another. So this is where artificial intelligence linked methodologies started helping. Not only this, but also it was also linked to the treatment that we have started developing at that time, and vaccines that we started developing at that time. And also we started looking to see how we may be able to pick up or catch the side effect of the vaccines that we may be able to see. So, for example, the UK government tried to find an artificial intelligence software tool to catch vaccine adverse reaction and collect this and pass this on to vaccine producers and take the measurement for the future. So this is another aspect of the data, the importance of the data, urgency of data, and then using artificial intelligence methods to train the model by using this set of data. So without the data, of course, artificial intelligence or machine learning methods would not work at all. So because of the amount of data that was collected before linked to molecular aspect or DNA aspect of other things, put the UK in a better position to collect more data and analyze the data and turn this into an actionable outcome. So it was also linked to the UK's 100,000 genome project. At that project, it started decades ago, and then they collected samples from more than 100,000 people. They sequenced it, and then they got the data, DNA architecture or DNA sequencing, the whole genome sequencing of more than 100,000 people. Because of this experience, they used this experience for coronavirus genome sequencing, and it was also in the press. So you can see that at that time, UK became one of the countries that collected massive amount of data linked to coronavirus. Of course, it was built upon the experience gained when they were running 100,000 genome projects. The other aspect that we could look at the data was during the coronavirus term, most of the countries started diagnosing the disease using chest X-ray. So massive amount of chest X-rays were recorded, taken, and massive amount of money spent for this purpose. So they look at the blood test to see if there was a coronavirus or not, because at that time the tests were not that much up to date, because the disease were mutating and the technology was not there to be able to develop a kit to be able to detect whether that person has got a coronavirus or not. So in order to make sure that that person had the disease or not, they also looked at another dimension, another sign, because it affects your chest, your breathing, and so on. So they took the X-ray. So what happened during that time? I look at the number of publications that were on chest X-ray. For example, chest X-ray linked to coronavirus. If you look at May 2021, there were more than 2,500 documents or research outcomes published. And then I also look at a year after, nearly 4,000 research papers were published. But what happened then? Because it wasn't that much reliable biomarker. Also, kits were developed to detect coronavirus from your nose or your specimen and so on. So therefore, the governments, the hospital, medical professionals started leaving a chest X-ray, but replacing it with very much home test kit. So if you look at where artificial intelligence and data linked methodologies have been used is massive. From your kitchen to your factory, to your car, to your motorcycle, your education, in the hospital, and so on. So we have started seeing more areas where we can see data-driven artificial intelligence machine learning methods have been developed and deployed in the public sector, in the commercial sector as well. So, and there is a big debate behind this, whether artificial intelligence is going to take over our job, or is it going to be democratized to give a better and equal opportunity to different people living in different parts of the world. For example, they say, okay, AI will offer every child an Eton education. Eton is one of the famous colleges in the UK, and whether we could deliver or offer a similar type of high-level education to everyone in the world? Is it possible? Could AI deliver a self-learning environment and personalized education? The other one is, of course, hospitals. So if you look at the national health services in and around the world, they started using harnessing their own data and develop artificial and machine learning tools for decision making using the data to predict illnesses ahead of certain time so that it could be cured in a timely manner. And of course, this is also being used to develop not only diagnostic tool, but also used to develop treatment regimes, vaccines, drugs, and so on. And also, could it help to develop a model to give us a better meal? So this is another thing. Actually, although it is used for tasting and so on, but this may also give you a flavor or mixture of ingredients to give you a nutritious meal. And of course, we are using this in transportation, and in this transportation, so we are making our motors use less energy, less petrol, gas, and also how we can make it safer and so on. So if you look at this, over the last few decades, we have started getting more data and collecting more data from different angles through different tools. And now we start using this data to develop decision-making tools for different purposes, as we mentioned. The reason why I'm talking about this health issue, because health is one of the most expensive areas and costs governments a lot. And this is where you can see different sets of data being collected of one single person. So you can look at X-ray images, as mentioned, and blood test, DNA test, images, even mobile phones as a wearable device, and so on. So where the story started, I mean, is there any historical perspective of this? This is actually one of the things that I've been able to find in the websites. Was there any recording about health issues or other things? Actually, in the history, if you go back to your country's records, you would be able to find a data about an apple that may have been recorded in your archives 100 years ago, maybe 500, 600 years ago, because even at that time, the governments were trying to understand what was happening in the public and even whether there was an inflation and so on. And this one was quite interesting one. So it goes back about 3,000 years, and it was about a health record at that time. So even if you go back to your own country's archives, I'm sure you will be able to find loads of different data that was recorded maybe 1,000 years ago. But what happened since then? So we started with a paper, and data on that paper. Now we have data centers, massive data centers, and our data is on cloud. Even we don't know where the data is, actually. My data, I don't know. But if you look at the data, now it is being stored in data centers. It may be anywhere in the world. But when you look at the management of this, now we need more people to be able to manage it. And now we started creating jobs that did not exist before. Now we are talking about data officers, chief data officers, data engineers, data scientists, are now being employed by all different organizations. So the paper, and then data centers, and now we have multi-clouds, and we need more data storage to be able to store more data that we have started generating every day. And with all the mobile phones accessible to mobile devices, wearable devices, so we started generating more data, and everything is being digitized. This has been the case of generating more data, and therefore we need more resources to be able to record, analyze, and manage the data sets. Actually, the data has become an asset. So nobody is willing to their own data, because when we started talking about the data in the past, maybe 5-6 years ago, everyone was saying, oh, data is the new gas and petrol, for example, or gold. Yes, this is the case. I think every sector, every company, every human being started realizing that, oh, this is an asset for us. So how could I share my asset with somebody else? It may be they are competitor. So therefore, everyone is very careful about the data, the way data is being collected, used, and so on. So, and also the quality of the data you collect, and whether there's a missing data, there may be alternative data. And these are the new terms that are coming up in line with the data nation, data age, and data future. So if you look at, we started using in the past big data. That, if you look at the data, data is data. It may be coming from historical buildings. It may be coming from the information about the history. For example, you may have a historical building, and in the history, you may not be able to find really important information about how that data or how that building was there, because you didn't have any image. You don't have any image. But if you go into the data provided by the historical people, those who are historians, and it was written history book, if you collect some information about it, and you can build an image of that architecture. So it's like a predictive model based on the data that you gathered from different sources. So in that case, data is not only numbers, but also text-based data, information available there to help you understand what was there before. And you could use this as a kind of predictive model to reshape your building, your historical site, and so on. So this is another example here, because the data is being collected through different means and coming from different parts of your body. So this is, again, if you collect data from different sources of that your architectural sites, architectural buildings, then if you fuse the data into one place, this would help you better understand what was there, and you can have a better near real architecture. So that's why this is quite important. So now we have wearable devices being used to collect data from our body, every part of the body. Now, this is in and around houses, so many different devices, from the sensors that you may have on your doorbell to the satellite. And then if you look beyond your house, beyond your city, beyond your country, beyond your continent, and also beyond the world. So if you go to space, loads of satellites in and around you to collect data through different means. So because of this, or collection of massive amount of data, the actually government officials started saying, oh, could computers change the way we have been treated and the way we go to hospitals, doctors, and so on. So computers may be used to diagnose disease and so on. So actually it was easy because it was much better for the government because they would be able to reduce the cost. So now this is where, for example, genetic information came in place, and then they started talking about how we may be able to harness the power of data better to give us more accurate diagnosis, leading to higher accuracy, faster diagnostic decision making. So when you look at the, but there is a ethical issue behind this. How would you be able to share the nation's data, personal data, patients' data, and so on, with giant IT companies? Of course, they have a facility, they have infrastructure, and they have technical knowledge and infrastructure to be able to analyze data, and they may be able to give you something back. But the problem here is that how could you work with these people to protect your data and your people? So I think this is particularly important, and this data issue, the ethical the ethical aspect of data and protection of the data is also valid in every discipline, including architecture, construction, and so on. So therefore, we need to be very careful about this aspect. So this conversation will go on to look into different aspects of the data, the importance of the data, and how we can turn data into infrastructure, decision-making tools to help people live better.